Hey everybody, it's tea time with the diva. Grab your tea, grab your coffee, because we're gonna get into it. This tea time is dedicated to Diddy and his funds. Do you believe that his empire, his financial empire, got depleted by this criminal case that he had to fight? And will it additionally go down even more as he fights the multitude of civil suits against him? And I'm sure he's gonna financially help his sons fight the lawsuits they have pending against them. Let me share the screen so we can go ahead and get right into the story. So going broke, Diddy faces cash crisis as Cassie payout in civil suits drains his $400 million fortune despite racketeering acquittal, says a lawyer. Now listen, the LA mansion is still up for sale. No one has tapped into it and tried to buy it yet. But you got to imagine there's not too many people that can be in the market for a $61.5 million home, okay? Even Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck are having trouble offloading their marital home because I think they want something crazy like in the 60 million too. I forgot the number they're trying to sell their home for, but it's not like you have buyers just walking around the street that can afford that type of price range. So a lawyer spoke to the U.S. Sun about Diddy's options once he's released from prison. Let's take a listen.
I personally found the prosecution's presentation very underwhelming. I think that there was a lot of high expectations built up. The prosecution did a press conference. This was, I think very anticipated to be a strong case. Perhaps it looked strong on paper, but once you get into that gauntlet, once you're in, the field of battle of trial, things can change, and things might not go how you think they're going to go. And I think things kind of went south for the prosecution in a number of ways during the trial. The allegation that this was RICO, racketeering, that there was a criminal enterprise, that is a very serious allegation to allege that a business, Bad Boy Entertainment, was in fact a criminal enterprise. But when we got to the trial, criminal enterprise contemplates multiple affiliates. It contemplates a conspiracy among several numerous people to engage in criminal activity. And the government chose not to call any of those possible co-conspirators. In fact, they didn't even charge any possible co-conspirators. So I think the jury was left wondering, hey, how can this be a criminal enterprise when there's only one person who's alleged to be a criminal?
And also, they did also fail to call a lot of the alleged victims who are also suing him in civil cases. Just talk through that and how that's quite surprising.
I expected the prosecution to use what's called Rule of Evidence 404B to get in testimony from other alleged victims that is similar in nature and kind to the allegations from Cassie and Jane, the specific alleged victims in the criminal case. We saw that in Harvey Weinstein's case, round one, and it's not an uncommon practice. However, the prosecution instead chose to kind of streamline their presentation and only call Cassie and Jane, and then they also called Mia, who did allege some sexual misconduct, but surely not the dozens of folks that we've heard about in the media who are also saying that Diddy did this to them.
And why do you think that is? Do you think that's because once they'd spoken to them, they didn't feel that it would stand up in court? Or what do you think the reason is there?
There could be several reasons. In the criminal context, the government has to meet the highest burden of proof that there is, proof beyond a reasonable doubt. That's different than in all of these civil cases where the plaintiff just has to prove it was more likely than not that Diddy sexually assaulted them. And so I wonder if the government looked at these other allegations, vetted them, and said, hey, that might be fine for a civil case, but when we're talking about the highest burden in the land on a criminal side, I'm not sure we can meet that with these folks. And I wonder if that was the calculus for the federal government in making those choices.
In terms of the guidelines for sentencing, they're saying that he may only get time served, that he may just get a couple of years. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so on the two convictions for interstate prostitution, those each carry up to 10 years in prison. But the judge has some discretion here. And so the judge is going to look at a number of factors. The judge is going to look at his lack of criminal history. The judge is going to look at the seriousness of the offense. And while it is not, a good thing to engage in interstate prostitution, it's not the crime of the century, the judge may look at the fact that he was found not guilty of all of this other misconduct. And I think all things considered, we're probably looking at something on the lower end of this sentencing range. I would guess between 2 and 3 years, and he's already served at least 1.5 or 2. Reputation going forward, is it irrevocably tarnished? Is he going to be able to come back from this? He still has roughly 70 civil cases alleging much of the same misdeeds with which he'll be confronted even after he is sentenced on this case.
What do you think the effect could have on him coming out, now that if he does get released in the next couple of years, like you say, he's still got a lot of civil cases. What do you think will be Diddy at the end of all of this?
Oh gosh, that I don't have a crystal ball. I mean, one thing that's clear is that his resources have been depleted. He still appears to have some wealth, but there's going to be a collectability issue when it comes to these civil cases. 70 plus plaintiffs, if they all get judgments, he's not going to have enough personal assets to make them whole. And I would say on the back end of this, it's hard to predict exactly what will happen. America does love a story of redemption. Could Diddy qualify for that, even with the unsavory alleged misconduct? Possibly in America.
Let me just pause this. Yeah, you stranger things have happened. His reputation is really tarnished, so I'm not 100% sure what is going to happen in his case. But I also believe this judge is probably going to give him the highest sentence possible. And I don't mean maybe the 10 years on each count, because remember, he could get 10 years for each count, and that's where most people are getting this 20 years from. But I think this judge is going to come somewhere in the middle. That's just my thought. Sean Diddy Combs may not have to deal with life in prison after being acquitted on multiple charges, but he could run into financial difficulties when he's released from jail, an expert has claimed. The controversial music mogul was sitting on a fortune of almost $1 billion at one point in his career before it imploded. But his net worth reportedly dwindled to $400 million months before his arrest in 2024. He has since had to pay a growing mountain of legal fees for his criminal trial, several civil cases, and a $20 million settlement to his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Combs, 55, was acquitted of the most serious charges of racketeering and sex trafficking this week at the weeks-long marathon in Manhattan, New York, but he was found guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in purchasing people for relations and remains behind bars ahead of his sentencing hearing. Despite each count carrying a maximum of 10 years, he is likely to be a free man in the coming months, according to experts. But he may struggle to get his career back on track as his business empire has significantly declined due to his legal troubles and the public fallout from the allegations. Eric Faddis, a former felony prosecutor and founding partner of Varner Faddis Elite Legal, spoke to the U.S. Sun to give his opinion on what is next for Combs. He said one thing that is clear is that his resources have been depleted. He still appears to have some wealth, but there's going to be a collectibility issue when it comes to these civil cases. If they all get judgments, he's not going to have enough personal assets to make them whole. There's no legal mechanism of which I'm aware by which he could try to take back the $20 million or so that he paid to Cassie in a civil judgment. That's over and done with. And there's no way I'm going to show this attack again. We done saw it about 1,000 times. There are murmurs about is he going to try to go after folks who are involved in this trial for defamation or malicious prosecution or something like that. Anything is possible, but I think he would be better off kind of letting sleeping dogs lie, moving on with his life and undertaking this Herculean effort of dealing with the other civil cases Asked if he believes he could go broke, the lawyer claimed, oh, 100%. I think there's a substantial chance that his assets are going to be dwindling if they're not already dwindling. Of course, they are dwindling. He doesn't have these brand deals that he had before with the alcohol brand, with all of these other things. There's no insurance policy that's going to kick in and pay out these plaintiffs. If these plaintiffs prevail in civil claims, he himself is going to be financially responsible. I'm sure he paid gobs and gobs of money to his criminal attorneys for this 2-month trial. On top of that, a lot of his endorsements and contractual support is likely gone. And so I think he's going to run into financial issues real soon. Combs paid off his $18.8 million mortgage on his lavish $48.5 million Star Island mansion in Miami, Florida before his arrest. Maybe if he offloads that LA home, if somebody finally buys it, and maybe if he offloads this $48 million mansion, because obviously it's all paid for in cash now. If he paid the last $18.8 million before he got arrested, that'll give him some type of cash flow. To try and secure bail, his defense team previously proposed a $50 million bond package, which included a property that was raided by the feds. He also listed his $61.5 million Beverly Hills home for sale, but it remains on the market. Business empire. The star was running multiple businesses before his scandal, including Revolt TV, which he founded, and his fashion brand Sean John, which vanished from Macy's. Combs relinquished control of his lucrative spirits brand, Ciroc and Dillion, and also reportedly lost a Hulu reality series deal. And maybe, listen, there's other criminals on reality shows, right? Or ex-criminals or whatever. Maybe when he gets out, he can do a reality show. Now, I don't know how that's going to work, though. But maybe he could. However, his music catalog remains intact for the time being. Combs kept his label Bad Boy Records relevant before he was arrested and backed the likes of Machine Guns Kelly's mainstream sellout in 2022. In 2023, he also dropped the Love album Off the Grid, his first solo album in nearly 2 decades. The same year, singer Janelle Monáe also released her celebrated record, The Age of Pleasure, through Bad Boy. Asked if he thinks he could build his empire back up, the lawyer said, it's not unheard of in America for folks who have, been formally disgraced to kind of make a comeback. There are a lot of actors who were totally disgraced and they made a comeback, but they don't look like Sean Combs. I think he's going to try, but whether America has the stomach for that at this point is an open question. I think legally speaking, it's certainly a victory for Diddy, but I think we have to be careful because there are a lot of sensitive issues at play here. Just because the jury found that he was not guilty, that's not the same as finding that he was innocent. What the jury found was that the government couldn't meet its burden with respect to those charges. That's not the same as saying those things didn't happen. Combs was previously forced to apologize to fans after previously denying physically assaulting ex-Ventura when CNN published exclusive hotel surveillance video from 2016. The footage showed Combs appearing to grab, shove, drag, and kick the singer in a hotel hallway. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video, he said in a video statement posted on Instagram. I was disgusted that when I did it, I'm disgusted now, he added. I went and I sought out professional help. I got into going to therapy, going to rehab. I had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry, but I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry. Combs fell to his knees on Wednesday when the verdict was read out in a Manhattan courtroom, and he was acquitted of the most serious charges in his criminal case. The U.S. Sun obtained a letter from the prosecution sent to Judge Iran regarding the SAR's sentence for 2 counts of engaging in P, which is yet to be decided. They say the guideline sentence for him is just 51 to 63 months. 5.5 years maximum, and he's already been behind bars for 9 months. But it's interesting because the hearing for his sentencing is going to be October 3rd, and by that time he would have served at least a year behind bars. It reads, the government knows, however, that the guidelines applicable at sentencing may be higher than this preliminary calculation. The government has not had adequate time to carefully consider all potentially applicable guidelines provisions. Listen, what can you do? His lawyers did their thing, and the prosecution fell short. If anybody is to be mad in this case, they need to be mad at the prosecution for not proving their case. Listen, guys, chat with me in the comments, and when I get an opportunity, I will chat back. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that every time I upload a video, you will be notified. If you are a subscriber, welcome back. Everybody, thanks for watching. What are your thoughts? Do you think his empire, his financial empire, is going to dwindle down to nothing? Thanks for watching. Hit the like button, people, and I'll see you on the next video.